Hi, this is Cheryl Gallant, your Conservative Member of Parliament for the fertile riding of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. Farmers in Holland have been protesting their government's plan to reduce the amount of fertilizer farmers can use. The protests have led to supermarkets running out of food, and food distribution has been disrupted. And all because the Dutch government is seeking a 30% reduction in nitrogen emissions by 2030. Blame it on the farmers. This is the same policy that Trudeau wants to adopt. The Liberals want a 30% reduction by 2030. The Liberals like to claim that farmers are using too much fertilizer. This is the typical mindset of someone who's never stepped foot on a farm. Fertilizer is expensive. Even more so when Trudeau slaps a 35% retroactive tariff on fertilizer, supposedly to hurt Putin, but it's really hurting Canadians the most. This was supposed to hurt Putin, not the hungry children. Farmers are not going around overusing one of the most expensive inputs on a farm. The Liberals are so blinded by their pathological drive to net zero, they don't care what will happen to the price of food if we cut fertilizer by 30%. Less fertilizer means lower yields. Lower yields means less food supply. Lower supplies mean even higher food prices. Farmers will be forced to sell their large farms to corporations or private equity firms. It's great news for the globe-trotting executives who attend galas in Switzerland. It's great news for governments who want to control food supply of their population. It's easier to take over a small number of large corporations than messing around taking over family farms. It's bad news for rural communities. It's bad news for people who buy food. Given the scale of the crisis that's happening right now in Holland, it might surprise you to learn how little media coverage has been given to Trudeau's plans. Only 2 articles, one from Brian Lilly and another in the National Observer, have reported on Trudeau's anti-fertilizer plan. The communist trolls are out in droves denying the farmer protest is going on in Holland. The once independent media is now the government's online censor. Canadians are being left in the dark by the legacy media. And not only are Canadians in the dark, the media is keeping them that way. Canadians should be concerned about the growing ties between the legacy media and the far left. Over the last year, Canadians have witnessed a number of violent terrorist attacks committed by the radical left. Last February, an Antifa terrorist drove a truck into 4 people attending a Freedom Convoy demonstration in Winnipeg. The terrorist was released on bail. Not the same for political prisoners, obviously. That same month, a group of axe-wielding, mask-wearing terrorists attacked a construction site in British Columbia. They terrorized the workers, destroyed equipment, and set fires. No charges have been laid. More recently, a former Conservative minister in the Harper government was the victim of a terrorist attack when 2 of his cars were torched in his driveway. No arrests have been made, despite an eco-terrorist group claiming credit for the attack. Despite these violent attacks by radical socialists, the legacy media wants you to be afraid of a veteran marching across the country. Last week, one outlet tried to smear Conservative MPs for meeting with veteran James Topp. According to this outlet, James Topp once did an interview in April with a man the anti-Canadian hate network has labeled as, quote, far right. end quote, whatever that means. In this news outlet story, they quoted extensively and uncritically from the executive director of the Anti-Canadian Hate Network. This organization drives a flat platform and gives a platform to Antifa. They gave a platform to a self-described radical socialist. On February 9th, the Anti-Canadian Hate Network published an anti-convoy rant by an author named Ian B. Ian B's Twitter biography describes himself as Antifa and a radical socialist. At best, the Anti-Canadian Hate Network is a federally funded Liberal Party astroturf organization. At worst, it's a dangerous organization, financially incentivized to expand the scope of what constitutes hate. It's why the organization goes after anti-mandate protesters. It's why the organization goes after pro-life marchers. Any opposition to the progressive socialist agenda must be marginalized and delegitimized with your tax dollars. When news outlets give this organization credibility, they embolden and legitimize acts of violence committed by Antifa terrorists. According to this news outlet, it's fair to say that someone has ties to the far left if they meet with somebody who conducts an interview with a radical. Ian B., the self-described radical socialist, was given a platform by the executive director of the Anti-Canadian Hate Network. This news outlet conducted an interview with the executive director. By this newslet's own logic, it must be held accountable for the words of radical socialists like Ian B., the way the marching veteran was canceled for having an interview with someone the Anti-Canadian Hate Network deems unacceptable. The challenge conservatives face is that we reject guilt by 7 degrees of association. Conservatives believe in individual responsibility. Each Canadian is responsible for their own words and actions. The radical socialists reject personal responsibility. They believe in collective punishment and guilt by association. This is what we're fighting. A free country made up of responsible individuals, or a socialist state where individuality is crushed. Live from Ottawa, this is Cheryl Gallant.